A gentleman, or gentlelady, excuse me, the ranking member of the full committee, Ms. DeLauro, is recognized for the purpose of an amendment. Would the gentlelady like to dispense with the reading?
I ask unanimous consent that the reading of the amendment be dispensed with.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with, and the gentlelady is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
I rise to offer this amendment to prohibit the destruction of the federal government's ability to mitigate the worst impacts of the housing crisis and to restore investments that build housing and help American families achieve the stability of home ownership. America is in a cost of living crisis, and the cost of housing is one of the primary causes. The U.S. has a shortage of 7.3 million affordable rental homes. We need to build more housing in every state. The situation is no better for those looking to buy. The Center for American Progress estimates that there is a shortage of 3.8 million fewer homes than needed. The Chamber of Commerce estimates it is 4.5 million. No matter where you are on the political spectrum, it is clear there are not enough homes for Americans who want to buy them. This is a crisis that affects every part of the country, every age group. Older Americans who have outgrown their homes are staying because there are no affordable options for them to downsize into. That means there are fewer homes going on the market, fewer affordable options for first-time buyers looking for starter homes. It's a vicious cycle in every sense of the word, and the only people benefiting are the giant institutional investors and private equity firms, which are increasingly buying into the housing market and further. Nationally, private equity firms own more than 500,000 homes. According to some estimates, private equity firms are expected to own up to 40% of the single-family rental market by 2030. Families need help. They need more options. Why then is this majority eager to defund the home program? My amendment would restore funding for this critical investment. This is a supply-side program. It provides grants to state, local governments to produce affordable housing, create pathways to home ownership through first-time homebuyer assistance. You know, if we're serious about building more homes, we should not be taking away this tool that has supported new housing construction from Texas to Illinois to Alaska. The amendment restores a level funding. The amendment also restores level funding for NeighborWorks, which helps local organizations develop and preserve affordable housing, revitalize local communities, provide assistance to help families buy and to be able to retain their home. 37% cut in this bill would be devastating to nearly 250 community organizations across the country that rely on NeighborWorks for predictable, flexible support, especially at a time when the cost of property insurance and housing construction is skyrocketing. The partnerships that NeighborWorks has built across the nation include the New Haven's Neighborhood Housing Services. It's helped leverage over $70 for every $1 of federal investment, an extraordinary return on investment. This amendment also restores funding for HUD's housing counseling program, which supports thousands of certified housing counselors across the country who provide prospective homeowners with financial real estate education that they need to achieve home ownership. It provides foreclosure prevention assistance, which helps families be able to keep their homes. NeighborWorks organizations like New Horizons in New Haven and even run something called Ready to Rent classes to help potential renters become successful renters, showing how these programs work together to support housing stability at every level. In 2024, New Horizons Housing Counseling Program assisted almost 13,000 families in their eviction prevention program, meaning these families were not evicted and not at risk of homelessness. You know, when I was very young, I was 9 years old, my family and I were evicted, and that moment turned our world upside down. I never forget how awful it felt to see all of our possessions piled on the sidewalk. My family worked hard, but had very difficult financial instability really for as long as I can remember. We went to live with my grandmother. My family recovered, and with my getting us back on track. But I understand the horror of eviction. Many other families have the trajectory of their lives changed forever. Some spiral into death and to homelessness. We should be doing everything in our power to ensure evictions are as rare as possible. That is why my amendment would also restore investment in legal assistance for eviction prevention, give struggling families a fair shot, saves taxpayer dollars by helping families stay in their homes. Connecticut launched a right to counsel program in 2022, $20 million. And within a 2-year period, they saved nearly $37 million by providing legal aid to more than 5,000 households. How did Connecticut save the money? Because the renters were able to stay housed. The state did not need to spend this money on emergency shelters, foster care placements, and more social services. The amendment restores a comprehensive approach to housing stability. Home builds the supply. NeighborWorks develops local capacity for affordable housing development and homebuyer support. Housing counseling provides a pathway to sustainable home ownership, and legal assistance reduces costly evictions. We need to use every tool to address the national housing crisis. If we do not do this, we can't tackle the cost of living crisis that is holding back working families from reaching their potential. A home is simply not a place to rest your head. It's a source of comfort, it's pride, and success for families everywhere. It is central to the tenet of the quintessential American dream. I'm committed to helping more people make that dream a reality. Proud to propose this amendment. I urge my colleagues to support it as well. Thank you, and I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady. The chairman of the subcommittee is recognized for his comments on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and respectfully, I would oppose the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Connecticut. On its face, it's $1.4 billion above the allocation. So if adopted, it would prevent this bill from going to the floor. But let's get down in the weeds here for a couple of things. The Ranking Member's Eviction Protection Grant Program has previously been a set-aside in HUD's research account aimed at giving federal money to legal aid societies for the work they already do. We didn't fund this program in FY24 or FY25, so it's kind of interesting that in a year of such fiscal austerity that the ranking member would be focusing on this program. On NeighborWorks, our bill restores NeighborWorks from the president's budget, which tried to wind down operations. This is an increase of $73 million. While it's a cut from the FY25 enacted level, we arrived at the level of $100 million through technical assistance. This level does include RIFs and scaling back of certain services, but it maintains core services to continue preservation of housing and home ownership and counseling services. I've discussed our issues with the home investment partnerships many times. Now, let's be clear. HUD has sat on $5 billion from the American Rescue Plan in 4 years, and these are current numbers as of today, as a matter of fact. Only 17% of those funds have been expended in 4 years. So I'd urge my Democrat colleagues to be forthright on just how much home ARP funding is currently available to assist in several home activities, including tenant-based rental assistance, production or preservation of affordable housing, and supportive services. Lastly, on housing counseling, the program has $57 million in carryover into this fiscal year, and this administration is encouraging these sorts of services to be provided by the private sector, not the taxpayer. So we've got a tight allocation. There's no question about that. But I maintain this bill is the right approach on funding safety and essential HUD services necessary to care for our nation's most vulnerable. So I would urge a no vote on the amendment. I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. The gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Clyburn, is recognized for his remarks on the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I rise in strong support of this amendment to restore critical housing investments that represent lifelines for families who are struggling with the worst housing affordability crisis in generations. In South Carolina and nationwide, working families are being priced out of home ownership and even basic rental housing. When teachers, nurses, and first responders can't afford to live in the communities they serve, we have a fundamental problem that demands federal action, not retreat. The home program has been the backbone of affordable housing production for over 3 decades. In South Carolina alone, home funds have helped create and preserve tens of thousands of homes. In the report and past debate on this issue, my Republican colleagues have suggested that unexpended home ARP dollars are a justification to cut the annual home investment partnerships. But we need to be honest about the fact that these programs are not interchangeable. These programs are targeted to different populations and different eligible activities, despite sharing similar names. Home ARP's focus on homelessness is distinct from the annual home program's focus on affordable housing development. Local communities rely on this predictable source of federal funding to close the gap and leverage other resources for housing production. Eliminating the annual home program creates a gap from home ARP that home ARP cannot fill. Without providing funding for the annual home program, South Carolina and Arkansas, Connecticut, and Oklahoma, any other state will have significant issues. So we need to be honest about this, and I hope we can work together to restore home funding. I would not disagree with anyone who suggests that the home program needs improvement and modernization to make the funding easier to use. And in fact, there are bipartisan efforts on the way to address this. But that is not a reason for us to walk away from this investment in the midst of America's housing crisis. Additionally, HUD's housing counseling program is particularly vital for first-time home buyers and families working to avoid foreclosure. Home ownership remains the primary vehicle for wealth building for American families. For Black families especially, who have faced decades of discriminatory lending practices and exclusion from home ownership opportunities, these programs represent a pathway to closing the racial wealth gap. When we invest in home ownership, we're investing in economic mobility and self-sufficiency and the American dream. NeighborWorks has been a trusted partner in communities across South Carolina and the nation for nearly 50 years and is critical for supporting local capacity from housing development and home buyer assistance. Mr. Chairman, at a time when families in all of our districts are struggling to keep up with rising housing costs, this body should be expanding housing opportunities, not eliminating them. This amendment restores programs that work, that have bipartisan support, and that represent the federal government's commitment to ensuring every American has access to safe, affordable housing and the opportunity to build wealth through home ownership. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment and reject the forced choice between fiscal responsibility and housing opportunity. We can and we must do both. I support this amendment and yield back the balance of my time.
I thank the gentleman. The gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Quigley, is recognized for remarks on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support the amendment. Look, housing costs are too high because we haven't built enough housing. And the home program directly addresses this shortages as the sole federal program dedicated to construction of affordable housing. In Chicago, in my district, here's some example. Home funds make up half the Department of Housing's budget, providing affordable housing. One project in my district in Lincoln Square will provide 65 new affordable homes in a very desirable neighborhood. That's 65 families who can send their kids to good schools, shop at healthy grocery stores, and feel safe. Without home, those families would not have those opportunities. One individual in that group, Rosemary Dougal, who is 62, living with multiple sclerosis on a fixed income. She struggled to stay in Lincoln Square, her, quote, happy place. Home changed that. It's not just about low income, it's about people aging, people with disabilities. This gave me back my stability and peace. Her new apartment at Canvas at Leland offers both dignity and affordability, something we can talk about for all those families, not just within that area and that district, but across the country. I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. The gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Wasserman Schultz, is recognized for her comments on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in strong support of Ranking Member DeLauro's amendment that keeps our promise to lower costs for hardworking Americans. This amendment does that by ensuring critical funding for the home program, housing counseling, eviction prevention, and neighbor works. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if any of my colleagues have moved recently, but I'll tell you firsthand, housing costs are not going down, not by any stretch of the imagination. In my district, the average price for a one-bedroom apartment is between $2,300 and $3,000 a month, depending on location and timing. That's tough for most workers to afford, and we know it's because since the COVID-era moratoriums were lifted, evictions in my community are back to historic highs. Worse, Tallahassee Republicans, that's our state capital, continue to ignore Florida's skyrocketing home insurance prices. That means they push more young people and families into apartments and kick them off the homeownership ladder. That's why this amendment is so critical. For instance, the home program provides critical funds to our state and local governments to build affordable housing. In communities that I represent, this is crucial because we face high construction costs due to storm resiliency requirements, and that keeps lower cost housing options out of the market or drives costs so high that rents have to be inflated just to break even. This amendment also includes funding for neighbor works, which curbs foreclosures, and in the last fiscal year delivered $71 of impact for every dollar we gave them. Its programs helped repair over 83,000 homes, created over 16,000 new homeowners, and kept hundreds of thousands of rental homes on the market across the nation. Defunding neighbor works cuts off our nose to spite our face. We need more investment in community development, not less. We should all want more Americans in affordable homes and apartments, not less. For all the Republican talk about making communities more affordable, fostering growth, and giving people more options, this bill does the exact opposite. So I urge my colleagues to support these common sense programs and adopt this amendment, and I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady. The gentlelady from Nevada, Ms. Lee, is recognized for comments on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I get a show of hands in here? How many people have a housing crisis in their district? I guess only Democrats do. Apparently, across the rest of the country, only in blue districts, or well, I'm not even in a blue district, so I don't know what that means. But I rise in support of this amendment because I was very deeply disappointed that this bill, at a time when housing affordability is the #1 issue in many communities, apparently not Republican communities across the country, at this time where it's eliminating the Home Investment Partnership Program, which was previously funded at $1.25 billion. This home program has invested $264 million in my home state of Nevada, which has helped build 8,900 homes, provide rental assistance for close to 1,500 families, support close to 16,000 jobs, and generate roughly $1 billion in local income. Yet despite its success, this bill zeroes out this program. And Republicans are saying that there are billions of dollars of unused American Rescue Plan funds that were meant for the home program. Well, let's clear a few things up. First of all, 99% of these unused funds are actually already obligated, and most of these are expected to be spent on specific projects in the near future. So they're not sitting there wasted as the claim is made. Second of all, it is true that the home program, which has existed for decades to help Americans afford first-time home buyers afford affordable housing. It received a one-time infusion of $4.9 billion. That is true. But these billions of funds from ARP were intended specifically for shelter, housing, and services for people who are homeless or near homeless. To be clear, this money cannot be used for broader affordable housing construction, rehab, or first-time home buyer assistance. And this is specifically what the home program has been geared towards. So I find it extremely misleading to say that there's billions of dollars sitting there ready for affordable housing in the home program. Affordable housing construction is an ongoing need in every state that requires a stable, predictable funding stream every year. This year in Nevada, we have 78,000 units, a shortage of that, with Las Vegas area accounting for 60,000. We are 60,000 units short in my hometown. We have only about 14 units for every 100 homes needed. So a program like this would be essential to helping fill that gap. This had provided a crucial funding stream for decades, but the slow spending of funds for a specific targeted program shouldn't be used to condemn and eliminate the entire program. We should continue to support ongoing affordable housing production programs that have proven track records rather than gutting them. I believe this is an egregious oversight, not to mention the numerous other problems in this bill. So I urge my colleagues to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentlelady from Maine, Ms. Pingree, is recognized for comments on the amendment.
Mr. Chair, I too rise in strong support of this amendment, and I appreciate the thoughts of my colleague from Nevada who asked if anyone else had a housing crisis in their district. And while we don't always raise our hands in response to those questions, I think I can speak for everyone in the room because I know for a fact that we all have a housing crisis in our district. This used to be one of those issues I felt like I was speaking about alone. It's been a problem we've recognized in Maine for a long time, but I know for a fact that we are all experiencing this problem at exactly the same level. So we can give all kinds of reasons or excuses why this appropriations bill does not include this money, but the fact is we are all in desperate need of this funding in our home districts. And I'll just speak a little bit about my state of Maine. Now, we have done some studies and know that our need is to build about 84,000 new homes since 2030. Now, for many of you in much bigger states, that may not sound like a lot, but we only have 1.3 million people, and that is a tremendous amount of new houses that need to be built in our state. And we're not quite sure where that money is going to come from if these vital programs, Home, Section 8, NeighborWorks, and also in my state, the PRICE program, are eliminated or underfunding, because there is just not enough money to create enough affordable housing. Our state is unique in some ways. We have the oldest housing stock in the nation. And some of this funding, like the NeighborWorks program, goes to upgrading and repairing houses and has been extremely beneficial to bring housing stock up to the level it needs to be. We also have the oldest citizens in the nation. We are the oldest state in the nation. And that means many people are unable to afford their current situation because they're living on Social Security or a fixed income. And many of them can't afford to move because the price of housing has gone up so much. So even though they could sell their house and go to another place and put that house on the market for a family, many of them can't find affordable housing to move them. We're 38th in per capita income, so we don't have a lot of people with a lot of extra money to afford housing, and many of them are at risk of not having housing, being homeless, or having to move in with a family member. So the very idea that one of the biggest crises going on in our country, the lack of affordable housing, is going to go unfunded or underfunded in this bill is a travesty. And I know you all are going to experience this same level of concern back in your home district. If any of you were holding a town meeting, as many of us on the Democratic side have had, and you tried to say to them, oh, there's plenty of money for affordable housing, there's nothing to worry about, we didn't need to fund it, I know you would hear a huge outcry from your constituents who'd say, That's not true. We cannot afford housing. We can barely afford the cost of food. We're not making enough money in our jobs. And one of our biggest crises is not being able to have stable housing. I would venture to guess that every single person in this room owns their own house or their own condominium or can afford their rent every month. So many of us haven't had that level of experience. But the idea for a young family that you can't afford a house, you can't plan for the future, you may not even decide to have children because you say, you know what, I'm living in a one-bedroom apartment and there's no option here, is a story I hear quite frequently. So I think these cuts are unthinkable, I think they're immoral, and I think everybody deserves the basic rights of having a home. We have an opportunity at the federal level to help our states to fund the affordable housing needs in our state, and we should support this amendment and make sure that funding is contained within this bill, and I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Mavan, is recognized for his comments on the amendment.
Thank you, Chairman. I stand in support of this amendment. By eliminating funding for key affordable housing programs, including a home investment partnership program and housing counseling, this bill betrays the communities across the country struggling to achieve the American dream. In Northwest Indiana, funding helps builds working families construct new affordable apartments units and supports first-time homebuyers purchasing homes. For example, in Lake County, the Lake County Community Economic Development Department used home funds to help finance a veterans apartment building in Hobart, Indiana, and use the program to help low-income families in Lake County purchase homes. CoAction, a community action agency in my district, also uses home to support 10 new units for affordable housing a year. Without home funding, agencies and nonprofits across Northwest Indiana would not be able to invest in these transformational affordable housing projects. Just last year, the program helped organizations provide housing counseling services to nearly 600 households in Indiana's 1st Congressional District. For example, this program allows Northwest Indiana Reinvestment Alliance to provide first-time homebuyer courses, mortgage counseling, and rental counseling. It supports CoAction's work for help families to avoid foreclosure, maintain their homes after purchase, and access financial education. CoAction, these services literally just helped 3 families this last month avoid foreclosure, stay in their homes, and help the families purchase cars so they can get to their jobs. For 15 years, I served as a local elected official that distributed emergency assistance. And one of the great things that happened was I was on the other end of a table or a desk that saw people who were going foreclosure or who were becoming evicted. And it was through social services and it was through these agencies that kept the stability of their homes. And what this means is that there are economic conditions that provide this. So in my district of manufacturing and steel, when there are trade policies that are beyond the control of individuals who are working in the steel mills, or there are trade policies on manufacturing that create unemployment, how that happens is the first thing that they try to preserve is their home and the stability for their children. And so these funds are vitally important to make sure that there is an avenue. And to the suggestion, respectfully, of the northern of $50 million, that private sector will pick that up, the newsflash is they will not. The private sector will not pick up those services and will leave these families in the dark with no options. So I respectfully support this amendment, and I yield back my time.
I thank the gentleman. If there are any other members wishing to address the amendment? Seeing none, if there's no further debate, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Say homelessness by state. Texas, nearly 28,000. Montana, 2,000. Arkansas, nearly 3,000. I think we're going to see a public list of the states and their level of homelessness. I think that would be enlightening for the public to know about. A couple corrections. In fact, we did support eviction legislation in 2024 and in 2025, but this bill rescinds those funds. And further, it goes back on rescinding all of the balances on legal aid going back before 2024. And I might add that Commerce Justice Science has just cut legal service by 50%, eliminating those services. So we know where that's going. Let me remind everyone, the American people demand help with the cost of living. We hear about it. My colleagues have cited the home ARP dollars as justification to cut the annual home program. Despite similar names, programs are not interchangeable. A home ARP funding does not replace missing funding for the annual home program. Programs are targeted to different populations. Affordable housing is where economic potential begins. If you can't find a home, as Mr. Mervan said, then you don't have a stable place to be, to raise your kids, and to succeed. This impacts a kid's ability to succeed in school, a parent's ability to keep a job. Home ownership is not only critical for the formation of wealth for families, but the foundation of safe and stable neighborhoods. I don't believe we can count on the private sector to pick up the slack. Addressing the cost of housing will require deliberate, strategic effort, including federal investment. That's what this amendment does. I urge your support for the amendment, and I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The question is now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Connecticut. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. The opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote has been requested. A sufficient number of hands have been raised, so the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mr. Alford. Mr. Alford, no. Mr. Amade. Mrs. Bice. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Case. Mr. Case, aye. Mr. Siscamani. Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, no. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Clyburn. Mr. Clyde. Mr. Clyde, no. Mr. Cole. No. Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Cuellar. Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean, aye. Ms. DeLauro.
Aye.
Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart. No. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Elzey. Mr. Elzey, no. Ms. Escobar. Ms. Escobar, aye. Mr. Espaillat. Mr. Fleischman. No. Mr. Fleischman, no. Ms. Frankel. Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, no. Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, no. Mr. Guest. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder. Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, no. Mrs. Hinson. Mrs. Hinson, no. Mr. Hoyer. Mr. Hoyer, aye. Mr. Ivy. Mr. Joyce. Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Captor. Ms. Captor, aye. Mr. Lolota. Mr. Lolota, no. Ms. Lee. Miss Lee, aye. Ms. Sletlow. Sletlow, no. Mr. Levin. Mr. Levin, aye. Ms. Malloy. Ms. Malloy, no. Ms. McCullum. Ms. Ming. Ms. Ming, aye. Mr. Molinar. Mr. Molinar, no. Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore, no. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli, aye. Mr. Mervan. Mr. Mervan, aye. Mr. Newhouse. Mr. Newhouse, no. Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez, aye. Ms. Pingree. Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Pocan. Mr. Pocan, aye. Mr. Quigley. Mr. Quigley, aye. Mr. Raschenthaler. Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rutherford. Mr. Rutherford, no. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Strong. Mr. Strong, no. Mrs. Torres. Mrs. Torres, aye. Miss Underwood. Miss Underwood, aye. Mr. Valadeo. Miss Wasserman Schultz. Mrs. Watson Coleman. Mrs. Watson Coleman, aye. Mr. Womack. Mr. Womack? No. Mr. Zinke. Mr. Zinke, no.
Mr. Womack, I think the availability of Capital Tacos has devastated this vote. So with that, I would ask, are there any members wishing to record or change their vote. We start over here with the gentleman from Nevada. Gentleman
Mr.
from New
Amade,
York.
no.
Gentleman from New York.
Mr. Lalota, no.
Gentlelady from Oklahoma.
Mrs. Bice, no.
Gentleman from North Carolina.
Mr. Edwards, no.
Gentleman from Texas.
Mr. Cloud, no.
Gentleman from Arizona.
Mr. Siskamani, no.
Gentlelady from Florida.
Wasserman Schultz, aye.
Gentleman from Alabama.
Mr. Adderholt, no.
Gentlelady from Florida.
Ms. Frankel, aye.
Gentleman from Maryland.
Mr. Ivy, aye.
Gentleman from New York.
Mr. Espaillat, aye.
Gentleman from Georgia.
Mr. Bishop, aye.
Gentleman from Texas.
Mr.
No, I know where. Yeah, I just want to make sure she got him down. Did you get Mr. Cuellar?
I did,
Did you
no.
get Cuellar?
Mr. Cuellar, aye. Now, Mr.
Gentleman from
Harder.
California.
Mr. Harder.
Gentleman from South Carolina.
Mr. Clyburn, aye.
Are there any gentlemen from California?
Mr. Valadeo, aye.
Are there any other members wishing to record or change their vote? I think we got them all. With that, the clerk will tally. On this vote, the ayes are 28, the noes are 31. The amendment is not adopted.